Hey everyone, Caleb with the Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with a promised video, and that is how to get mold off of books. So, full disclaimer, this book does not have mold on it, as you guys could probably see. It used to have mold on it though, and it used to be all over this stained area at the top. So, as things stand right now, I have yet to get the stain out of this leather book, but I just wanted to show you guys a little bit more about this book before I dive in, and I'll also, of course, show you how I got the mold out of this book. So first off, just wanted to show you guys, I hope that's focusing correctly, but this leather is not like the really smooth, fine leather that you have on most of your antique books that you have. This one, it's a very like rough cut leather, like it's honestly like you haven't even like treated the leather at all for this one. Like someone like literally like skinned a cow and put it straight onto this book. Like it doesn't have any of the polish or anything else that you get on car seats or the normal book covers that you get. So if anything, this book is going to be a whole lot harder, and it was a whole lot harder to clean the mold off of than a normal book would be, because since this is not polished, none of that, the mold was able to penetrate a lot deeper and is able to like stain the cover a whole lot more. But with all that said, how do you get the mold off of a book? Like any book in general is a little bit different. This entire tutorial is just for leather books, so if you're doing it for a different kind, yes, this might help you, but it is a little bit of a wet style of doing things, so it might not be your best call, because with leather you can get it a little more wet than say like a paperback book with a non-glossy finish, because the paper would just absorb all the alcohol that you put on, because that's something that you do for it. And there are a lot of different things that you can do to clean the mold off of these books. There are all these special detergents to clean mold off of, like 1,000,005 things. There's people that say do bleach. There's people that say that do this, do this, do this. Honestly, guys, just alcohol works, and it's a whole lot cheaper than a lot of these things. Yes, it is not always the best thing that you can do, but it's all that I have done so far, and I don't come across moldy books that often. And I mentioned this in comments for one of the videos where someone was asking about this, but I live in Oregon, and I live in the northwest part of Oregon, and it is very wet here, like all the stinking time. So even with all that moisture, even with it staying wet all the time, we don't have that much of a mold issue usually around here. So that just shows it might not be the most common issue for you to come across as moldy books. You will find some, of course, but you won't see it too often. And honestly, guys, it's not always worth your time to clean the mold off of some of these books. Like, yes, there are some books that are like hundreds of dollars, and it's worth your time. But at the end of the day, guys, I want you to just think to yourself, how much do you spend on this book, or will you spend on a book like this? How much time, how much time do you put into like sourcing it, and then how much time is it going to take to clean the book off? I would personally budget like 20 minutes to clean the book off, and then maybe a little bit more time in case you have to hit it again and again. And at the end of the day, guys, you have to think about your hourly wage of what you put in. Is it worth putting 3 hours into a book? It is if it's worth a whole lot of money, but if it's not worth a whole lot of money, it might not be worth putting that time into this particular book. Maybe you should leave it to the dump. I mean, I don't say that very often, but at the end of the day, we do have to make some money. Yes, if you see a book and you love the book and you like really value the book itself, yeah, totally put the time into it. But if you are a book seller, yeah, maybe it's not your fight. For me personally, as I've said in other videos, I am a big book nerd, so I'll try to save as many books as I can. I've sold some books for like basically no profit just because I liked the book itself. I have a stack of books that I haven't even sold yet because they have like no value, so I haven't listed them, but I don't want to throw them away because I think they're cool. So I have a stack of books like that too. So I mean, I'm not throwing away these books, but it could be what you guys end up doing with yours. So with all that said, let me just walk you guys through what to do with your solution that you'll be cleaning the book with. So what you want to do is get a little pipette sort of thing like this. I'm going to have a link in description to something like this, but it's just going to be a little thing. This one let you snip the top to be whatever size you wanted. For me, I did it about like a 9mm hole to fit like 9mm lead from a pencil, you know. That was about the size that I liked, because when I tip it upside down, it doesn't like flow out with a whole lot of fluid. It just does like a tiny little film, and that is what I find normally works really well with what I like to do. I use alcohol on so many applications on my book, and by alcohol I mean rubbing alcohol, not like vodka. But I find that the rubbing alcohol works very well, and it penetrates through so many things very well. It's really nice. I've really enjoyed using it, and I use it to get rid of stickers. Honestly, I've been corrupted by one of you guys onto something called undo fluid and also Gooby Gone. You guys kept on telling me about it, and one person really told me a lot about it, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. Yeah, I'm sold on that. I'll do a video on that in the future, but I have and still do sometimes use rubbing alcohol on stickers, but for this application, it's going to be for mold. So what do you guys want to do? Well, you want to get your rubbing alcohol. I personally recommend getting a big one because you guys are going to be using a lot of alcohol in this business. Not only is it nice for cleaning off stickers and whatnot, but rubbing alcohol being antibacterial is really nice because you can wipe down your books. Like you can get 1,000,005 Clorox wipes, or you can just get like a rag and your rubbing alcohol, and you can just reuse that rag, throw it in the wash, bring it back, and just do it like for all the different books. Like obviously don't wash it between books, so you don't really have to do that. But it is a nice way to clean off your books. Personally, I like to clean off my books because sometimes, especially when you get your books from Goodwill, it has like this weird, just feels like you're getting the plague on your fingers. So I like to wash as many books as I can. And in fact, I actually got some lights for my photos that I take for my eBay listings. And these lights actually put out UV light also to be like a sanitizing action. I've been testing that for a little while, and I'll probably be doing a video on that in the future because I thought it was really cool and I've really enjoyed the effects of it. So more on that in another video, hopefully. But back to this. So you want to get your rubbing alcohol, and then you want to do 1 part alcohol and then 4 parts water. So let's just, for example, right here, let's say you're going to do a teaspoon of alcohol, and then it would be 4 teaspoons of water. That is the mixture that you want to do. Of course, you can do a little bit more, a little bit less, depends on what you want. But I personally would not recommend going 100% proof alcohol on your book covers for this application. Yes, you can test it out if you would like. For me, I actually bought this book with the purpose of testing for cleaning mold off of, and I ended up not making a video on it at the time because I was too busy to do it and I wanted to get the book clean. Sorry. I wish I had filmed it, but things happen. So with all that said though, this right here, I haven't actually diluted this down, so this is 100% alcohol, so I won't be really showing you guys step by step how to do it. But what you'll want to do is get your alcohol, and you will, after you do a couple things, you'll just put it on the cover and you'll wipe it off. Now, before you do that though, there is one insanely important step. This is something that I have learned from my own experience of both cleaning books but also making my own books, because I have experimented with book binding. I make my own journals for that because I thought it was a fun little craft to do, and it actually has really cool results. I might show you guys that in another video. But something that you want to do before you put the alcohol on the book cover is first look at the book. So as you guys can see in this one, it has some water damage. That's what caused the mold. But you'll see that this book cover, it is pretty thin. It's not even a hardcover. See, it bends. It bends a lot. And this cover is very, very porous. And most book covers, even the hardcover ones, will also be porous. And for you guys, that is something that can be a big, big issue. Personally, for me, I like to not put much liquid at all onto the cover. Like even when I'm cleaning off mold or anything else, I'll just do like the very smallest amount. But even then, I still feel like, oh, what if I spill too much? Because if you spill too much, it can permeate through the cover into the pages, and then you'll have all your pages be warped and bumpy and get stains. It's not great. So what you guys want to do is, I actually, and we'll be linking this down in the description, but you guys want to get a plastic sheet to put right inside of here and cover the text block. So for me, I actually have all my plastic sheets over there, just out of reach. I'm sorry, but let me see. I'll just grab a sticky note to show what I'm doing. Actually, I have a piece of paper right here. All right, piece of paper. Pretend this is plastic, but what you guys want to do is put it in just like this, and you guys want to run it all the way over to the seam, right in there, right in the gutter, and you want to run it like that. And you can do paper if you guys want, but paper will not work fully, like as well as you want. It won't work. I wouldn't personally do it at all, but I mean, if you guys want to be Chinsky, yeah, you could try it. I wouldn't test it on your best book that you have, but paper can work. But plastic, guys, really is the best thing. And if you guys want to like not spend any money, you can do cling wrap. I have tried cling wrap in the past. I do not have good luck with that. So cling wrap, saran wrap, whatever you want to call it, it's what you put on your food. Personally, I find it's the hard plastic sheets, which again, I've linked in the description, that work the best. The reason why I like those the most is because they actually hang out past the cover. And the reason why you want it to hang past the cover is because sometimes you will have fine bits of mold that are on like the tip of the cover, and you'll want to take care of those. You'll want to like lift up the cover. You'll want to get in there a little bit. And if you only do cling wrap, sometimes it's the alcohol or whatever you put on it still gets down and gets into the text block. And guys, again, that stains. It causes the pages to warp. It basically causes water damage. It's not nice. So I like to do the hard plastic in like this, and you want to do that for the front cover, and you also want to do it for the back cover if you're doing the back cover. So that is what I highly recommend, guys. I'm sure that you guys can find other things to do. Like for me, I have also used so binders. They have little plastic dividers. You can use those as well if you have any on hand. I have used those as well. The hard plastic ones, not the paper ones, but the hard plastic ones work great. Basically anything that is basically like a sheet of paper but actually is plastic will probably work pretty well, especially if it has some stiffness to it. I find the stiffness does help just because of what all you'll be doing. So with all that said, I'm taking this out because it's just going to make noise and get in the way. But back to this. So let's say there's mold on this cover, and what you'll want to do is get your little bottle here. You'll want to make sure the hole isn't too big so not too much liquid comes out, but you'll basically just put a little bit on it. I actually just did a drop on it, and then you'll want to get a rag and you'll basically just gently wipe it, and then you'll just continue doing that. And guys, you can do this a lot faster if you dump on a little bit more liquid than what you should, but I don't recommend doing that because you can warp the cover. You can potentially, if you put on too much, your liquid will actually get down to the spine and then it'll get in through here. I have yet to figure out a way to make it so you don't have that issue, minus just being careful. So be careful. That's the best advice I can give you guys. But at the end of the day, you guys will basically just treat the entire cover. You'll want to get it just barely wet and go over. And as time goes on, you might see, okay, just that much wetness didn't work enough. Let me get a little more wet. Okay, that was too wet. And you'll basically have to hone in just what works just right for you and also for the book cover. So for me, with this one, with it being a more porous leather, this one I would personally do a little bit more liquid on than a harder, smoother cover, because the smoother ones won't have the mold permeating as deeply as other books. And something that I have personally found with dealing with mold is not like a plant. Well, first off, mold is not a plant, but let's think about a tree, for example. So you have the tree, and then you have the roots. And with mold, it's really nice because mold, you have this, and then here's the surface. Mold doesn't normally permeate very deep into things. I mean, it can, of course, but it normally sticks pretty well on the surface. So that is very good for us for cleaning the books off. And once you clean your whole book off, personally, I recommend leaving it out in the sun. So not too long, but like you can leave it in a windowsill and it will just slowly cook off all the alcohol and all that sort of stuff. I would personally even have it maybe outside for all the fumes, because rubbing alcohol is actually something called a VOC, which is not healthy, but you can do that. And then the UV rays from the sun can actually help to cook off some of the mold spores and whatnot, which can be nice. But again, do not have it in the sun too long because sunlight does bleach your books. It's called sun bleaching, and it is not great for the book itself. But if you are trying to save the book from being covered in mold, I think a little bit of sunlight is not nearly as bad as getting thrown away or being covered in mold. So end of the day, it's the lesser of two evils. So with all that said, guys, the link for these is in the description. It's not these exact ones, but it is similar ones. It's actually one that I wanted more than what I have here. But you don't have to buy it through that. In fact, you don't even have to buy the rubbing alcohol through the link, but it does help me and my site, so please do that. But if you guys are absolutely penny pinched, and if you guys are strapped for time and can't wait a couple days for it to come in the mail, most craft stores will have everything you need. Most craft stores will have something similar to this bottle. The grocery stores that you have will most likely have this, like Walmart I know has these. For me, I buy mine at Winco, which is a local grocery store brand. It's personally my favorite grocery store brand. So if you live in the Northwest, you'll know about Winco and you'll love Winco, or you're crazy. But there is a lot of stuff that you guys can do. For rags, honestly, guys, you can buy a bandana like I have right here. I don't normally use the bandana. I just pulled it out because it looked better than the rag I normally use. But you can use a old shop rag. You can use a ripped up towel. You can use an old shirt. You can use a sock. I don't care. But there's a lot of different stuff you can do. Personally, I'm not even going to put a link to a towel in the description because you guys know how to buy a towel on your own, I'm sure. For me, I have found that something more like a bath towel works better because they are more absorbent, so like they will pull the moisture out of the cover a lot better, and they'll pull the mold off and hold the mold a lot better. So something like a bath towel, that's a little bit rougher and whatnot, does work better than something like cloth, but cloth has worked for me in the past, and depending on your application, you might find cloth actually is a better option as well. For me, I have yet to do enough book covers for cleaning off mold, so I don't really have too much of a preference, but that's just what I do. There's a lot of other stuff that you guys can do. For me, another thing for cleaning off mold is I have my family, we make fun of our fingernails. Our fingernails are like insanely hard and thick. It's really weird. Like a normal person's fingernail is like this hard and ours are like this. So it's like when we scrape stuff, it's like using a screwdriver sometimes. So that's a little bit not great. But if you guys have like maybe softer fingernails, maybe a little bit of scratching with your fingernails, not too terrible. When I was cleaning off this book, I actually did use my fingernail a little bit on just the dry stuff. I found that didn't work, so that's why I ended up researching how to do it properly in the first place. And the nice thing about the rubbing alcohol and water mixture is it does soften up the mold to the point that you can scrape it off and rub it off a whole lot easier. And in addition to that, the rubbing alcohol and water will kill some of the mold. It will not do as good of a job as something like bleach, but it is something that can happen. That can help. And beyond all of that, just setting this book aside really quick, beyond all of that, guys, I know I've peddled this a couple times now, but air purifiers, guys, they are insane. They are so helpful for your book buying businesses, but also for your libraries, for all your other things, for trying to save your books. For me, I have air purifiers. I have several actually around my book business, and the reason why I have so many is because air purifiers, I'm just going to grab one. This is the one I've had for the last couple videos. But air purifiers, they're really nice because they have something called a HEPA filter in them. That's just this little filter here. And these things are made to capture all sorts of things, including mold spores. This one has some charcoal in it, so it actually absorbs odors as well, like the old book odor that some people don't like. It also is nice for allergens, so a lot of books will have different allergens in them. So the air purifier is really nice for just cleaning the air. And honestly, guys, the part about the HEPA filter getting rid of mold spores is really nice, because if you have one moldy book in a bookshelf or something like that, those mold spores will not only spread to the books touching it, but it will send out little ones in the air, and those will affect all your other books. If you have an air purifier, that can help to mitigate that issue. In fact, there are some air purifiers that have something called UV light sanitizer in it, and that UV light will actually kill the mold spores also. There's even air purifiers that are called ozone generator air purifiers. Those they're not the safest ones out there. They've actually been banned in California because California bans everything under the sun. But those can also be nice to take care of mold issues as well. So for my subscriber who says that they have a storage unit that has mold on a bunch of books, I already said this in comments, but I'm going to say it here. For them, they could really use the air purifier. Air purifiers, they're rated for different size rooms, so you could do that. There are some air purifiers that can run off of batteries if you don't have any plugins there. But at the end of the day, there are 1,000,005 things that you can do to clean the mold off of books. But as people always say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the cure, and air purifier can be a good cure to the mold issue because mold spores are all throughout the air, so an air purifier can work to pull those spores out of the air so it doesn't get onto your books in the first place. So I hope that helps. It might be worth doing a lot of research. I will hopefully link a article down in the description if I can find an article from our partnered blog for air purifiers, but if not, I'll just link to that blog in general, or one of their general mold articles, because that is some really helpful information, not only for your book business and your book collection, but also for your home in general. For me, my family actually has air purifiers in like every single room at this point, because they are such cool units, and they actually have helped a whole lot with air quality and allergies and so many things. So hope that helps. I hope that last part didn't sound too salesy. I know it might, but I'm just a bit of an air purifier nerd now because they are so cool. Like, I know it sounds weird, but they're really nice. And I mean, if it does sound too salesy, guys, like, this thing was like $20 when I bought it. I think it's $25 now. So like, it's not too much money. So if you guys do buy anything through any of the links, I mean, I'm not making a ton of money on this thing. I'm not saying this to make the money. You can buy it yourself. but I'm saying it because it really does help your home air quality and also your books. It keeps your books a little bit safer. And there's even units, not just air purifiers. There's ones called dehumidifiers, which pull moisture out of the air. And when you pull moisture out of the air, that actually makes it so mold can't grow as well, because mold needs moisture in the air to thrive. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you guys a couple ideas. Besides just dehumidifiers, they have machines for it, but they also have like dehumidifier bags and whatnot. They have ones for RVs, which my family puts in our cars because that does mold in Oregon. Our books might not mold, but our cars do. But there's a lot of things that you guys can do. Just be sure to cut down on moisture, and be sure to clean your air, and be sure to clean your books, and that should really help with your mold issues. Before you guys buy a book and put it with all your other books, if it has mold on it, clean it off first. Don't put a moldy book with your other books. That will just cause the mold to spread to all the other books, because mold, it doesn't just spontaneously happen. It comes from an original spore and then it spreads. If you have a neighbor's house that has a lot of mold, that can actually potentially get to your house if you are really, really not careful. So be sure to keep a little bit of an air gap. Be sure to be a little thoughtful about these things if mold is a real concern of yours, and especially if your family or your house has a big issue with mold in the past. Because mold, yeah, you can think you kill it all, but you don't always get it all, because again, it floats around in the air and a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot of issues to go on with mold. That's personally why I haven't bought a whole lot of books with mold, is I've been trying to play it safe. When I had this book right here and it had the mold on it, I actually would not store it with any of my other books until all the mold was cleaned off. And since then, I have been storing it with the other books, and I have been keeping an eye on this book because, as I said, I didn't clean off all the mold. Like, visually, I cleaned it all off, but it still has the stain, so I've been keeping an eye on it to make sure that that stain is not spreading mold anywhere, and so far it hasn't. So far it's done pretty well, but again, I'm keeping an eye on it because I don't trust it, because mold is crazy, and once you study it a little bit, it's like, oh, I'm not going to play with this stuff very much. I'm going to take this seriously because mold's dangerous. So hope all that helps. I hope that wasn't too convoluted of a video. Again, I'm going to have a link to the materials that I recommend, like links to those, and I'm also going to have a material list down in the description. I might even do it as a comment too, just to be helpful, and I hope that helps. Be sure to subscribe, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.